Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel Designs by Key, and today we'll be making the Darling Crochet top. It's a v-neck top that features this little lacy accent that's going to work perfectly for the warmer days ahead. I'll be making a 2X or a 46-inch bust, which I know is a little smaller than normal. The pattern does have some built-in negative ease, so be sure to check your gauge. But don't worry, I will also include the directions for extra small through 5XL throughout the tutorial. So if you're any of those sizes as well, I got you. If you are a written pattern person, check the link in the description for the free written pattern. And don't forget to subscribe, turn on those notifications, and like this video. Let's go ahead and get started. For the materials you're gonna need, some category 3 light yarn. I did use Jeans Colors by Lion Brand, and technically it is a weight 4 yarn, but it feels more like a 3, so use a 3. An I 5.50 millimeter hook, pair of scissors, and a needle to weave in those ends. And let's jump right into the back panel. Alright, so go ahead and grab your yarn and make a slip knot. Put that on your hook. And row 1 is going to be a row of foundation half double crochet. So we're going to chain up 2, yarn over, go into the second chain from the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through all 3 stitches to make the half double crochet. So for the next stitch, you're going to yarn over, find that chain that you created, go right underneath it, make sure there are 2 loops on top of your hook, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through all 3. And if you need more help with foundation stitches, I'll put a link in the description box for a video that I do have about them. And you want to continue with your foundation half double crochets until you get to your corresponding stitch count for your size, and I'll put that on the screen here. I'll be making a 2XL, so I'll be doing 74 stitches, and once I finish, I'll be back to start row 2. Alright, so I finished up my foundation row, and now it's time for row 2. I'm going to chain up 2 and turn your work. And we're just going to do a row of half double crochet. So half double crochet in every stitch across the row. And row 3 is going to be the exact same thing, chain up 2 and half double crochet across. So I'm going to finish up row 2 and row 3, and I'll meet you back to start row 4. Right, finishing up my last few stitches of row 3, and now it's time for row 4. So you're going to chain up 4 and turn your work. Now that chain 4 counts as a double crochet plus a chain 1. So we're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to work a V-stitch in this stitch. And all a V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in that same stitch. And we're going to work V-stitches all along the row. So you're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and you're going to work a V-stitch in the next stitch. We'll just work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in that same stitch. Skip 2 stitches, work another V-stitch, skip 2 stitches and work another V-stitch. And you're going to work V-stitches all along the row until you have 2 stitches left, and I'll meet you back once we get there. Alright, so I've worked my last V-stitch and I'm down to my last 2 stitches. And all you're going to do is chain 1, skip the next stitch, and work a double crochet in that very last stitch. You should have something that looks like this so far. And now let's move on to row 5. Row 5 is going to be another V-stitch row. So you're going to chain up 4. Turn your work. And you're going to go right into the middle of this V-stitch in that chain 1 space with another V-stitch. So we're going to double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet. The next V-stitch, you're going to work another V-stitch right in the middle. Okay, and you're going to continue along the row, working a V-stitch into the chain 1 space between every V-stitch from the previous row. And I'll meet you back at the end of the row to show you how to finish it off. All right, so I finished working my last V-stitch and we're down to just the turning chain. You're going to chain 1. And you're going to work a double crochet in the 3rd chain of that turning chain. So just count up 3 and work a double crochet there. All right, and this is what we have so far. And time for row 6. You're just going to chain up 2, turn your work, and this is going to be a half double crochet row. So go ahead and put a half double crochet into that very first stitch. You're going to work a half double crochet into the next stitch. Half double crochet in the middle of the V-stitch, so in that chain 1 space. And then half double crochet in the next stitch. Half double crochet in the next stitch. The middle of the V-stitch. And in the next stitch. And you're going to continue that along the row, crochet in every stitch and in between every V-stitch. And I'll meet you at the end of the row to show you how to finish it up. All right, so I'm at my last stitch of row 6, and we're just going to count up 3 chains of that turning chain and work a half double crochet in that chain. All right, so for row 7, chain up 2, turn your work, and we're just going to half double crochet across the row. You want to be sure that you have the same exact number of stitches that you started out with when you made your foundation row. All right, so finishing up my row 7. I should have something that looks like this so far. And now for row 8, it's going to be a row 4 repeat. So go ahead and chain up 4, turn your work. And it's going to be a V-stitch row. So you're going to skip the next stitch, work a V-stitch into this next stitch here. Skip 2 stitches, work a V-stitch here. And just a reminder, a V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in the same stitch. And you're going to continue with V-stitches along the row. Remember to skip those 2 stitches in between. The entire top is a 4-row repeat. And the repeat is 2 rows of V-stitches followed by 2 rows of half double crochet. And we're going to continue this until we get to row 37, and that should end on a V-stitch row. Again, it's going to be 2 rows of V-stitches followed by 2 rows of half double crochet. So I'm gonna finish that up to row 37, and then we'll continue with the top. All right, so once you finished up your last stitch of row 37, we're gonna continue on to the sleeves. Go ahead and chain 10. And be sure to chain loosely. You don't want this to be too tight. And go ahead and turn your work. And we're just going to work a half double crochet in the second chain from the hook. You're gonna half double crochet across in every chain. And this should give you a total of 9 additional half double crochet. Right, and once you've worked every chain, now we're just going to half double crochet across the row. Of course, place a half double crochet in that very first stitch, half double crochet in the next stitch, in between the V-stitch, and in that next stitch. And you know what to do, just go ahead and half double crochet across. And I'll meet you at the end of the row to show you how we start the other sleeve. All right, so I've worked my last stitch into the turning chain for row 38, and now we're going to do the extension for the sleeve. And we're gonna do it with a foundation half double crochet. So yarn over, you worked your last stitch into the third chain of that turning chain. We're gonna go into the second chain of that turning chain. Draw up a loop. Should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 1. That's your chain. Yarn over, pull through all 3 to make a half double crochet. So that counts as 1 stitch, and we're gonna do 9 all together. So that's 1. So just how you would do a normal foundation half double crochet, yarn over, find that chain 1, go right underneath it, and then just work a normal foundation half double crochet. So that's your second stitch. So go ahead and continue that for 9 stitches total. All right, and once you've finished up those foundation stitches, you should have something that looks a little like this. Now we can move on to row 39. You're just gonna chain up 2 and turn your work. All right, and we're just going to half double crochet across. Now from here, it is business as usual with the 4-row repeat, 2 rows of half double crochet, followed by 2 rows of V-stitches. And I'm gonna continue with that row repeat until I finish up row 55. And I'll put the row count for your corresponding size here. And once you've finished up that final row, go ahead and fasten off, cut your yarn, and we'll be ready to move on to the front panel. All right, so I finished up the last row of my back panel. You should have something that looks a little like this. Don't worry about this, we're gonna clean this up a little bit later. But let's go ahead and jump right into the front panel. All right, so for the front panel, go ahead and make your slip knot and place that on your hook. And we'll be starting this the exact same way as we did the back panel. Go ahead and chain up 2, and we're gonna do a row of foundation half double crochet. And I'll place the stitch count on the screen here. And the next rows are exactly the same as the back panel up to row 38. So if you need to rewind as a refresher, go ahead and rewind. But I'm gonna finish this row and up to row 38, and I'll be back to show you what to do next. All right, so I finished up my 38th row. The 38 should be where the sleeve extension starts. And now we're going to start the V-neck portion of the front panel. So go ahead and chain up 2 and turn your work. And we're gonna half double crochet in the next 43 stitches. I'll put the stitch count for other sizes on the screen here. And I'll meet you back to show you how to finish up the row. All right, so I finished up my 43rd stitch, and over the next 2 stitches, you're just going to do a half double crochet together. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, go right into that next stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on your hook. And that should make a decrease, and that's going to be the start of the V-neck. So you're going to go ahead and chain up 4, turn your work, and we're going to work a V-stitch row like we normally would. So skip this stitch, go ahead and make a V-stitch into this very next stitch here. And then go ahead and continue your V-stitch row like you normally would. Skip 2 stitches and do another V-stitch. Okay, so I'm at my last V-stitch. The last 2 stitches here. Chain 1, double crochet in that last stitch. All right, go ahead and chain up 4. Turn your work. And we're just going to work another normal V-stitch row. All right, finishing up my V-stitch row, placing my last double crochet in the 3rd chain of the turning chain. Go ahead and chain up 2 and turn your work. For the shaping of the neckline, each half double crochet row is going to have a decrease on the inside portion only, not on the sleeve side. So now we're back to another half double crochet row. Now normally we would go into this very first stitch with a half double crochet, but since we're decreasing, we're just going to skip this stitch and go right into the next stitch with a half double crochet. Then you just want to half double crochet across as normal. All right, finishing up my last stitch of this row. And if you notice, we're doing the exact same stitch pattern by doing 2 rows of half double crochet and 2 rows of V-stitches. That does not change. The only thing that's changing is the decreasing that we're doing on the inside to shape the neckline. So let's go ahead and move on to the next row. Go ahead and chain up 2, turn your work. And this is going to be a half double crochet row, but we're going to do something a little different at the end. So go ahead and half double crochet across until you have 4 stitches left. All right, so I'm down to my last 4 stitches. Remember that this chain 2 at the beginning here does not count as a stitch, so do not count that in your 4 stitches. And the reason why we're leaving 4 is because we're going to do 2 decreases at the end of this row. So go ahead and the next 2 stitches, do a half double crochet 2 together, and then half double crochet these 2 together as well. And the reason why we're doing 2 decreases on this row is because in order for the V-stitches to work, the base has to be a multiple of 3 plus 2. All right, so you're gonna chain up 4 and turn your work. All right, and you're gonna work a normal V-stitch row. Go ahead and skip that first stitch, do a V-stitch in that next stitch here. And of course, you're going to skip 2 stitches and do a V-stitch in the next. Continue this along the row until you're down to 2 stitches. Chain 1, do a double crochet in the very last stitch. And at this point, you should kind of have an idea of what we're going to do from here. Of course, you're going to work 2 V-stitch rows, followed by 2 half double crochet rows. The first half double crochet row, you're just going to do 1 decrease. And the second half double crochet row, you're going to do 2 decreases. And they're done on the same end. Do not decrease on the sleeve end at all. And you're going to continue this until you get to the same number of rows that you did for your front panel. For me, it's going to be row 55. And once I finish row 55, I'll come back and show you what we should have, and then we can start the other side. All right, and once you finish up your last row, you should have something that looks like this. Go ahead and fasten off and cut your yarn. And you wanna leave a longer tail so you can use that to seam it to the back panel later. All right, and let's go ahead and get started on the other side. All right, and for the other side of the neckline, we're going to skip 2 stitches from that first stitch here. We're going to skip 2 stitches and attach your yarn to that very next stitch. Go ahead and chain up 1. And you're going to half double crochet 2 together, starting from that stitch that you just attached in. And then go ahead and half double crochet across the row. All right, finishing my last stitch. You're gonna chain up 4 and turn your work. And we're just gonna work a normal V-stitch row. So skip the next stitch, V-stitch in the next. Chain 1, double crochet. Right. Skip the next 2 stitches, do another V-stitch, and do that all along the row just like you normally would. The next row is a V-stitch row as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and complete this row and the next row, and I'll meet you back for the half double crochet row. Okay. Working the last stitch of my second V-stitch row. You're gonna chain up 2, and turn your work. We're gonna half double crochet across until you have 2 stitches left. All right, so I'm down to my last 2 stitches. This should be one of the double crochets in the V-stitch, as well as your turning chain. And you're just gonna half double crochet 2 together. You're gonna prepare for another half double crochet row, chain up 2, and turn your work. And remember with the half double crochet rows, we're working decreases. So the first half double crochet row will have 1 decrease, and the second half double crochet row will have 2 decreases. So now we're on the half double crochet row with 2 decreases. And what we're gonna do is skip that very first stitch, half double crochet in the next. That counts as 1 decrease. And then we're going to half double crochet 2 together over the next 2 stitches. And that's your second decrease. And then go ahead and half double crochet across the row. All right, working my last stitch. We're gonna chain up 4, turn your work. And from here, you're going to work a normal V-stitch row. And you want to continue on with the pattern, working 2 V-stitch rows, followed by 2 half double crochet rows. The first row of half double crochet will have 1 decrease. The second row of half double crochet will have 2 decreases. And you want to continue that for the same number of rows you did on the other side. Just a reminder, I'll put the row count here. And once you finish that last row, fasten off, and we can go ahead and move on to assembly. All right, so I finished up my front panel. You should have something that looks like this. And now we can jump right into the assembly. You want to go ahead and lay your panels out with the right sides facing together, and we can start connecting them. All right, so I have my panels laid out with the right sides facing together. You remember that long tail that you left on your front panels? You're going to use that to seam your front panel to your back panel. And you can either use a whip stitch with a needle or do a slip stitch. I'm going to do a slip stitch today. And just to show you how to do that, you want to go ahead and put your hook through the first stitch of both panels. And I like to size down a hook just because I think it gives it a better finish, but this part is totally up to you. And go ahead and yarn over with the tail that you left and pull that through. And you're just gonna slip stitch along the shoulder. Just keep the stitches lined up, and in every stitch, just go ahead and work a slip stitch across. And you're gonna go ahead and repeat the same thing for the other shoulder as well, and I'll meet you back to show you how we do the sides. All right, so I finished my shoulder seam. I went ahead and fastened off. It should look a little something like this. And let's go ahead and start on the side seam. All right, so for the side seam, we're gonna start at this bottom corner, work our way up, and we're gonna end on the sleeve here. So all of this is going to be seamed together. So I'll go ahead and show you how I attach my yarn to the corner. So you can start the seaming at either end. I just prefer to start at the bottom corner. And you just wanna get your hook and just a new piece of yarn and just attach however you attach. I like to go in and just place a chain 1 and just tighten it up. So I just pull my yarn through with both loops. I do a chain, and the short piece, I just take that out and pull it to kind of make a knot. And now you're ready to start slip stitching. So you're just going to find the best place for you, go through both panels, and slip stitch up the side and then back down that sleeve where I showed you before. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up for both sides. And then we can go ahead and get started on the edging. All right, so I finished up my seaming and I've turned my work right side out so we can get started on the edging for the neckline. So we're just going to find a corner. I'm gonna start up here and attach your yarn. And once you've attached, just go ahead and chain up 1, and you're going to single crochet evenly around the neckline and then on every stitch on this back panel. And you're gonna meet back at your first stitch with a slip stitch. So again, just single crochet evenly all the way down and around, and then come back here with a slip stitch in your first stitch, and I'll come back and show you what it should look like. All right, so I finished up my edging. You should have something that looks like this. Go ahead and fasten off and weave in your ends, and let's go ahead and move on to the sleeves. Okay, and for the edging for the sleeve, you're going to attach your yarn to the very bottom seam. Go ahead and chain up 1. And you're going to single crochet around. I like to do 1 single crochet in the side of every half double crochet row and 2 single crochet in the side of every V-stitch row. I find that that gives you the most even edging, even for the neckline. And once you get all the way around, you just want to slip stitch to the very first stitch. All right, so I finished up my sleeve. You should have something that looks a little like this. You want to go ahead and finish up your other sleeve, weave in all of your ends, and we are done. Y'all, I absolutely cannot wait to see what you guys do with this top. Be sure to tag me on social media at Designs by Key so I can see what you guys come up with. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss what I have coming next. Thank you so much for crocheting with me. Until next time.